Okay, so hype for VHS is reaching pretty high levels, and everyone knows what kind of stress that kind of hype puts on the developers and how that same hype will push expectations to unreasonable heights by the players waiting to play the game, and overly excited content creators primed to make as much VHS content as possible. So today we're going to talk about some of the concerns I have about the game, and what could happen in the future if some concerns aren't addressed early. The goal of this video isn't to bash the weak parts of the game, but to bring hype down to normal levels so you remember that VHS isn't a flawless game and that the devs aren't perfect people, which should help keep your expectations in check.
Space Coconut.
The first and biggest thing for me personally is the store. I'm not a fan of in-game purchases of any kind, but since VHS is a free-to-play game like Fortnite, I understand the need to use this model. Cosmetics aren't a necessity to play the game, so my primary concern lies with the cost of future teens and monsters compared to the rate at which free currency is earned. If the grind for free currency is unreasonable enough to drive players to feel obligated to buy new characters outright instead of choosing to support the game with cash, that would suggest that emotional manipulation is in full effect and Hellbent is on the road to the dark side. I should note that I plan to buy the characters with real money because as long as the game is fair and fun, I have no problem supporting it. The tricky part with the store is to offer a fair value to the players while at the same time charging enough for the devs' work and gaining a large enough quantity of sales to support development for the game's foreseeable future. With their commitment to creating cosmetics that can be earned through the journey and movie system because they understand why it's important to do so, I'm confident that they will find a fair balance when it comes to the cost of new characters compared to the rate that free currency is acquired. When the store is revealed and the rate of currency earned per match or per hour is calculated, we'll do some super fun math to find out where the value lies, so look forward to that. Side concerns for cosmetics in the store are recolors and the cost for them, or how they'll be handled if they exist. Nothing is set in stone, so anything about the store can change, so all we can do is wait and see what it looks like when it's revealed. In the same vein as the store is the Battle Pass. They've already said that they want to implement one in the future, and while I plan on purchasing it to support the game also, I hope that the offerings in the paid track hold a fair value for the price of the Battle Pass, and that players using the free track will still get a reasonable amount of value from it. Hopefully, the VHS free Battle Pass will be more goodies and less empty slots, unlike other ASIM games we've played. My next biggest concern is actually the matchmaking. After about a month and a half of playing VHS, I'm pretty decent at Wart, and I'm not an abysmal team player. However, once we had a few new people show up to the test, it was such a slaughter that I had to deliberately cut them a little slack so they could at least play a bit in their first few matches. When the game goes live, it's going to be kill or be killed, and the players that go out of their way to build their skill are going to easily dominate new players who try the game for their first time later on. This problem also came up when I moved from playing Wart to playing Dollmaster. Let's say that after a month and a half of practicing one monster, you decide to try a new monster, and are faced with teens that don't have such a big learning curve between characters. You become a new player facing experienced players, which may make the game more difficult or even a frustrating experience. Does that sound familiar? I have no idea what matchmaking system the Hellbent devs have in mind or how effective it will be, but the problem that Dead by Daylight suffered when it came to their matchmaking before MMR was implemented will be the same problem that VHS could face in the future. Since VHS has a win condition and balance should come pretty easily to the game, a matchmaking system that rewards skill and puts skillful players together shouldn't be that difficult. But I have no idea how to make something like that, so it could be remarkably complicated and more difficult to pull off than I think it is. As long as new players and new monsters can learn and be learned together without going against mostly experienced players, the learning experience should be less frustrating than it currently is in Dead by Daylight. There's something to be said about trial by fire and get good and all of that, we've said that before, but what we're talking about is the fun of playing in that situation, which even some testers agree that learning a new monster against experienced players can induce the temptation to rage quit or give up entirely. Imagine that situation when the game goes live and the group you're playing with doesn't include devs or colleagues. After finishing this script, I found that Kyle had already mentioned matchmaking, and it sounds like they have a solid plan for the system that includes a way to adjust it as needed, so matchmaking might be a non-issue. I left the matchmaking section in for transparency, and as an example of how some of my concerns could be addressed already, and we just don't know about it yet. Which leads me to the next concern: salty early game DCs. Have you ever run into a survivor in Dead by Daylight that DC'd on their first down? How about their first hit? I bet you've even run into a survivor that DC'd because you found them first. Maybe the killer DC'd because their hex was immediately cleansed. These players will probably exist in VHS, and I don't know what the plan will be to mitigate early DCs from ruining the match for everyone else. No one in the media preview has DC'd early because the matches have been enjoyable, so I might have to test that myself to see what the results would be. Hackers are another worry considering the absolute disaster that happened and is happening with the Dead by Daylight PTB. As a free-to-play game, there's no real barrier for banned players from loading up a new account and repeating their shenanigans. Whatever the devs have planned for disruptive players like this, I hope it's effective and permanent. The last of the concerns I have is regarding the launch. Did you hear about the Outriders launch? I was super excited about that game, and they absolutely pooped on the servers. I hope the VHS launch is smoother than that. It probably will be, because remember when they mentioned the huge spike in interest in the game? It probably prompted them to push the beta back a bit, so they can make sure that everything is in order for the mass number of people that are going to smash the beta servers when it goes live. They only have one chance to make a good first impression, and the beta is that first impression for the public. I've lived through MMO launches, so long login issues aren't a big deal to me, but being unable to play the game for days could be a problem if things happened like it did for Outriders. So, I'm sure you've noticed by now that all of the things I've listed are outside of an actual match. That's right, I don't have any legitimate complaints about the gameplay right now. I did have a concern about chompy bars, but after thinking about it, I literally could solve the problem I had by not rushing my gameplay and meticulously eviscerating teens instead. My other concern was about the layout of a particular map and the effectiveness of certain loops. But the problem was a result of my poor chasing of teens by being overly cautious and not the loops themselves. On top of that, something I can't mention was adjusted, so we're waiting for those changes to be revealed to us also, so we can try out the various changes that they've implemented. My concern might be completely eliminated or exacerbated by those changes, so we'll see. The other problem is that pop cans just suck. If you start a chase and a teen uses one, just abandon the chase because odds are high that they're just leading you into an ambush. There's a limited quantity of cans and there's no time limit in the match, so you're only doing yourself a favor by letting them use it and letting them go so you can find them later with no sprint burst to save them. In a VHS match, your skill as a player combined with your tactical strategy when dealing with the opponent are going to dictate how well you do in a match. I haven't had a match in my time playing where I lost a match because of something I couldn't control. Walking into ambushes, chasing into ambushes, failing to track effectively, rushing into armed teens poorly, missing critical swings because of bad hag habits, making poor tactical decisions that give the teens more time to make weapons, and many more things like that have caused me to lose matches. I didn't experience any gameplay bugs, overpowered weapons, weapon mods, or teen perks that felt like they were the only reason I won or lost. Matches in VHS feel fair when the roles are evenly matched. I'm still a bad teen player though, but I'm improving slowly. So yeah, VHS isn't perfect and I have concerns, but playing the game isn't one of them. Everything else is just wait and see until the beta comes out, followed by the full release whenever they think it's ready. These are my honest thoughts on the topics I've laid out, so if you have any questions or want clarification, ask in the comments below and I'll answer what I can. Let me know what you thought of this video and if I calmed down some of that over-eager hype you might be experiencing, as well as calmed down some of your concerns, or made them worse. Next time we'll be talking about why maining a character might lead to a more balanced game and a closer community. I know it sounds like a weird one, but do the YouTube things if you don't want to miss it anyway. Until then, I'm Space Coconut, and you're welcome.